Hi everyone and welcome to Caravel Gaming. This is Boomer and welcome to a brand new game that we're going to be covering on this channel. I think this is going to be the third TCG we're going to be covering on top of Magic and Hearthstone. This is the alpha for Hex Shards of Fate. A little bit of backstory on it. Hex was designed by Cryptozoic, who also had a big hand in the World of Warcraft trading card game. Now, obviously Blizzard decided to shut down the World of Warcraft trading card game in favour of Hearthstone. And so, the guys at Cryptozoic decided to go ahead and start a Kickstarter for a trading card game of their own that they were going to have up as basically a rival to all the new trading card games that are coming out now. And they got an enormous amount of positive feedback on it, I would say, and the Kickstarter ended up raising somewhere in the region of $2.5 million. Now, say what you want about Kickstarters, you know, whatever your opinion is on them, but that is a pretty big outpouring. There's a big show of confidence in Cryptozoic saying that they can produce a really good card game. Now, I do have to stress that this is an alpha, so therefore there are going to be bugs. Everything's not optimized yet or anything like that. I mean, for those of you who saw our video yesterday, Hearthstone's just come out of beta and it still has bugs in it. So things are not exactly, you know, 100% super awesome with Hex at the moment. But for an alpha, it is pretty good. And there's been some stuff that's come out recently which I think kind of gets the whole idea of the creative juices flowing. Now, what they've had recently, or what they've only had recently, is PvP, which is basically very similar to Magic the Gathering, and has actually caused one or two people to basically, say, well, this is a bit of a Magic the Gathering clone. Well, the original alpha version of the PvP, absolutely 100% was very close, but when that's going on, all you're doing is testing the game's mechanics, to tell you the truth. However, this game is going to go way deeper than that. The first thing that I'm going to direct your attention to up in the top left is this thing here, Campaign. As you will see, we have a very Earth-looking like planet, like pretty much everything in Fantasyland is. It's fairly Earth-like, but you will notice that there's a dirty great big hole in it here, and there's also this, which is the Hex. Essentially, the backstory to the game is that this foreign object, shall we say, came through and crashed through the centre of the planet and came out the other side. Now, instead of causing, you know, the planet to split in half and break or whatever several astrophysicists think would probably happen if that happened to the planet, it's come out the other side and this Hex has settled in orbit. And the idea of the campaign mode, and this is something that's got me really excited, because for those of you who played the Magic the Gathering game Chandelier, or it was the old Duels of the Planeswalkers, I think it was 1997 it was released in, something like that. Magic was fairly new at the time, Dual Lands was still legal, etc. And it seems like a really up-to-date version of that, but it seems like something that, they've taken their own stance on it, and what they want this to turn into is basically a trading card game MMO. That's the idea behind the whole trading card game itself. The idea will be that you raid through dungeons, you take on bosses, you can have 3-on-1s, 4-on-1s, etc. I would imagine that the bosses are going to have supremely powerful decks with unique cards. And additionally, we're just going to come into the card manager here so I can actually show some stuff off for you. Just ignore what's going on here. Basically, over here on the right hand side, this involves me explaining something about the mechanics of the game. As you can see, your deck is 60 cards and you have various lands, spells, etc. Very similar to Magic the Gathering. You even have reserves, which is your quote-unquote sideboard. But where things come differently, aside from the actual mechanics of how the game works itself, is over here on the right hand side. You control a hero, or you control, you know, in Magic it would be controlling a planeswalker, but you control a hero in the game. Now, in terms of PvP, when you're just simply fighting another human, this doesn't really play too much of a part. The only thing that it plays is that each hero has an ability, which I'll explain later, and you know, each of those. In fact, I'll bring up the screen here to show that there are a lot of champions. They're all aligned to different factions, and they all have different abilities that are associated with the 5 colours in the game. And you get to activate hero abilities, etc. during the game. But what's kind of exciting about PvE is what you see here on the left-hand side, where you can actually equip items to your hero. And what those items will do is change what is written on the cards in the game. For example, let me just grab one of the cards here. Yep, here we go, Counter Magic. You'll see that this says interrupt target card. Each card with the same name as that card owned by an opposing champion in all zones gets permanent cost +2, and it's a quick action. Quick actions can be played at any time. Unlike Hearthstone, which is very much you can only do stuff on your own turn, Hex is very much like Magic the Gathering, where there are basic actions which can only be played on your own turn, and there are quick actions which can be played at any time. So you'd cast this in response to your opponent casting a spell, and that spell would fizzle. Now, there are several, I think there are 2 items that relate to this card, and one of them changes its casting cost. It makes it either 3 with a 2 blue threshold, or it converts it into, or you can discard a blue shard from your hand to play the card instead. So very much like the Magic card Force of Will. But of course you need to use one of your item slots for that. So you have to be very sort of, you know, you're going to have to be very careful with what you put in your item slots, and raiding through dungeons, etc. is how you're going to get your items. And I think you're going to be able to unlock more cards. Speaking of more cards, the store has recently gone up in one of the more recent patches. I don't think you can buy anything yet, but because everything's open in the alpha. But that's the they're just testing the store at the moment to see if it's good. You can buy booster packs, you can buy starter packs, which are that's a dwarf starter pack. They're basically preconceived, pre-made decks. That is a human-based starter deck. This is a orc-based starter deck, and this is a Shinhare or bunny-based starter deck, because one thing you will notice about this game is that it actually does have, you know, there are several classes, several races, and one of them is a race of vicious killer bunnies called the Shinhare. So, you know, they're trying to do quite a lot with the backstory of this game to make the PvE actually worth something. So that'll be quite exciting. In addition, they also have, if I can find the play now button, there we go. They have actually started up tournaments. Anyone who is familiar with Magic the Gathering will know about these. Sorry about that, guys. We just had a little bit of a hang there. So what they've also done is brought out these tournaments, and you can see we have draft queues, sealed queues, and constructed queues. Very similar, again, Magic Online. You can either draft your own deck yourself, you can build a deck from sealed, and you can also play a constructed matchup where you just bring your own deck. But as you can see at the moment, the most popular things are single elimination drafts. We're not seeing a lot of constructed at the moment, which is a bit weird to me, but my guess is that guys just really want to test the draft format, and we will be bringing you some drafts on this because I'm kind of interested to see how that goes. For constructed, most people seem to be hanging around the proving grounds, which is where you can just challenge people who are available to a game, or you can play against the AI, which I will be doing to show off some of the mechanics of the game. Hex is supposed to, when it's complete, it's going to have one of the most advanced AIs to play card games, supposedly. Anyone who's played Jewels of the Planeswalker or any other game where you play a collectible card game against an AI kind of knows that AIs tend to be a little bit rubbish for playing card games, but apparently they're working very hard on this one. The AI in the alpha is pretty weak, as you will see when I play against it, but apparently that will get a lot stronger towards the end of the development. But as I say, it's currently in alpha, so you can't really expect perfection. Now, what I thought I'd do just to round out this introduction to it was I would play just to show you how the game works, I would actually play against the AI. Now, what I'm going to do is take one of the more standard decks that people are, or most simple decks people are aware of. As you can see, I've built up a load of decks here at the moment. And we will be doing some testing videos. I know that Midorian has, you know, he's one of the guys who's really interested in this game. He's also got an alpha as well, so we will be bashing decks against each other for your viewing pleasure. And yeah, I'm just going to go into challenge the AI, and I'll show you a game of Hex. I'm playing quite early on a weekend morning here at the moment, so I am hoping that the server won't be under too much load, because that's something that can happen. So first of all, let's introduce her. You both start at 20 life. You both start with 7 cards in hand. Sound familiar to anyone? Now, we get the choice to mulligan down to 6, 5, 4, etc. And on this occasion, I'm going to keep my hand. And I'll explain the mechanics of the game here as we go. There are 5 colours of mana, or 5 types of mana. There's Diamond, Blood, Sapphire, Wild, and Ruby. Each of those have their own shard. I'm going to keep this hand so I can stay zoomed in. Now, there are multiple different types of mana in Hex. Now, as opposed to Magic, where you have basically how your lands work out, in Hex, I'll just zoom out, you have 3 different types of resource. Your hero has a resource called Charge. You have this down at the bottom, which is your resource pool. The figure on the left is how much you have available now. The figure on the right is how much you have available at your maximum. And there's also another resource that will appear here, which is called Threshold. So you can only play 1 resource a turn. So I'm going to play this Ruby Shard. You'll notice I now have 1 Threshold, or 1 Ruby Threshold. It's also added 1 to my resource pool on both sides, and my hero has gotten a charge. If we read the card, you gain a charge, you gain a Ruby Threshold, and you gain 1/1. That's how the shards work. Now, at the moment, we only have the 5 basic shards, and there's also another shard called Shard of Fate, which is a shard that can produce a colour of any shard that's currently residing in your deck. However, it doesn't give you a charge, and it doesn't give you an active resource for this turn. It only adds to your actual final pool. So it essentially comes into play tapped. Now, let's just have a look at some of the cards in my hand. First off, we have Ruby Lance, and this is one of the things that we have to look at in terms of how we cast our cards. In the top left, you'll see that this card itself costs 3, so I would need this number to the left to be 3 or higher in order to cast it. And additionally, it has 1 red dot, which means I need to control 1 red threshold to be able to cast this spell. Now, this is something that's very different to Magic the Gathering. If you were, say in Magic, you had 2 islands and 2 mountains in play, you could only play spells that cumulated up to 2 blue and 2 red. In the case of Hex, if I had 2 Sapphire Shards and 2 Ruby Shards and had 4 mana, I could actually play I could actually play 2 spells which had 2 red Threshold. Threshold is basically a requirement. It's not something that you spend. You only spend the resources in the bottom left. You're going to see a bit more of this when we get into playing multicolour decks. At the moment, we're only really going to focus on single colour decks for the next sort of 1 or 2 videos, just to get people used to how the decks play. Now, you'll see I am on a timer here, but I'm against an AI, so it doesn't matter. So let's have a look at the cards in our hand. We've got Ruby Lance, which is deal 1 damage to target troop for each Ruby Shard for each Ruby Threshold I have. I have Burn, which is Arcane Shot, Holy Smite, Shock. You know, the quintessential 1 mana, deal 2 damage to something. I have an Arena Brawler, which is a 3/1 for 2 mana with 1 red threshold, and I have a Furious Taskmaster, which is a 2/2 with 1 red threshold, and I can pay 1 mana at any time to give an orc I control speed, and speed is charge or haste or however you want to call it. So there's no point in me playing anything here, so I'm going to pass over and let the computer have its turn. And it makes a baby Yeti, which is a 1/1 with speed, and it's really ugly. So yeah, you can have that. This is actually, I mean, to be honest, I think I'm just going to burn it because it's the most efficient use of my mana. Because I think I'm going to be dropping guys for the next couple of turns, so I'm okay just killing it. Okay, we draw another Ruby Shard, so I'm going to cast mine. I get another charge, and now I can cost 2, so I'm going to make this Arena Brawler. And the crowd goes wild. I haven't actually played this matchup against the AI, to be fair, so this could be quite interesting. Okay, another Ruby Shard, so we're up to 3 now. Going to make the Furious Taskmaster, and since it's a... oops, come back here. And since it's an orc itself, I'm actually going to give itself speed. And I'm going to attack for 5. I don't think that there are any spells which give... I don't think there are any spells which only do 1 damage, so it didn't really matter what order I played that in. He's going to Ruby Lance my Taskmaster, which is fine. I get Rage Fire. Now, this is a new form of spell that won't be very familiar to many of you guys. This is 2 mana, 2 red threshold, and it has escalation. It's a basic action, which means I can only play it on my turn, and it deals 2 damage to target champion or troop, which is pretty rubbish for 2 red threshold. It's a pretty difficult mana cost to have if you're not a monocoloured deck. However, escalation, upon resolution, this shuffles into your deck and then permanently adds 2 to the bold number in the text of each Rage Fire you own in all zones. Now, this is something that's very unique to digital card games, something that a game like Magic the Gathering can't actually do if it wants to tie itself into the mainstream area, and it's something I think that Hearthstone does a little bit, but maybe not quite as much as it could. In Hex, every single card is tracked through your deck, so therefore cards that are in play can actually have an effect on cards that are not in play. You already saw Counter Magic, how it makes everything cost more if it counters a spell. Well, Rage Fire will actually loop itself through your deck, so if I cast this Rage Fire, I'll do 2 damage to whatever I shoot at, and then every subsequent Rage Fire I get will deal 4, and when I cast that Rage Fire to deal 4, all my Rage Fires will then deal 6, then 8, then 10, and you get the idea. Each colour currently has 1 escalation card, and personally I think Rage Fire is the best of them all at the moment. Okay, I've now got up to 4 charge, and you'll notice I've got a glowing gold icon here. That's because my champion, who's Poker, has an ability which is 2 ruby threshold plus 4 charges, basic action. Create a Blaze Elemental and put it in play. A Blaze Elemental is a 3/1 with speed, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And you'll see I spent all 4 of my charges doing that, but I didn't spend any mana. Because my opponent's not got anything on the board at the moment and I have a Ruby Lance for his creatures, I'm just going to Rage Fire him, and I'm going to escalate any further Rage Fires that I have. I'm going to proceed to my attack phase and hit him for 6. Now, Blaze Elemental dies at the end of turn, so, you know, it's not a free 3/1 with haste, it's just a straight up, just, really, most of the time, it's going to be deal 3 damage. And, yeah, the AI is bugged. It tends to make cards during its second maiden phase, which in a game like Magic the Gathering or Hex is usually good, but obviously not when you've got a creature with speed that dies at the end of turn. Okay, I just drew Burn to the Ground, which is the first example of an X spell. It's 1 plus X. It's a bit of a weird way that this is written. with 2 red threshold controlled, and it's deal X damage to target champion or troop. So this is literally just a complete burn spell, and I think that actually kills my opponent here. So we'll just attack with the veteran brawler. Yeah, and yeah, we can get up to 4, so sayonara, kill in turn 5. And that wasn't the best draw that this deck can have, and Hex have acknowledged, sorry, Cryptozoic have acknowledged this. They do know about this. It was kind of introduced in the last patch. The annoying thing is that the defeat icon still works. So you don't get much for winning, but you get a blank space for winning, but you get a big defeat and a bloody sword if you lose. So I hope that that was just a quick introduction to how things go. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We are going to be producing a lot more videos on this because I think it's going to be well worth it. The game is getting patched pretty much every week. Brand new cards are getting released, some of them very, very powerful. Additionally, there are going to be tournaments which we are probably going to stream on our channel. The first one is next week. That is, I don't have a clock round me, so that's pretty poor on my behalf, but I believe it's the 22nd and 23rd of March. There is going to be a tournament. They're going to hold the Swiss part of it on the Saturday, which everyone is allowed in, and then they're going to hold the top 8 on a Sunday. They're trying to run it very similar to how Star City run their Magic tournaments. Not too sure how well it's going to work at the moment, but you know, we will definitely give it a try, and we'll see how it goes. And hopefully Hex will continue just adding features, improving features. The game seems to be improving week by week, so hopefully it's going to be something that you guys are going to enjoy seeing, and we're going to enjoy making content for as well. So that's going to be it for this introductory video, guys. I thank you very much for watching. This is Boomer for Caravel Gaming, and we will see you next time.